On tonight's episode of 7-Year Switch, titled Emotional Boot Camp, things get, well, emotional. We have a special guest, so don't go anywhere, right here on AfterBuzz TV.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Would you give up or try again if I hesitate to let you in? Know it should be yourself.
Aaliyah for the win. I want to always be in charge of music.
Yeah, good pick.
R.I.P. Aaliyah. Oh, wow. You are getting into it.
Hey.
Everybody should be into Aaliyah.
All right. That was not, my singing voice is not as quality as her. Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Caroline Thayer. Who do I have co-hosting with me, obviously?
I'm your host, Paul Payton.
And hello, I'm Ashley Lauren.
And honestly, we're like, I'm on this edge of my seat right now because we have the one, the only Dr. Jessica from 7-Year Switch online with us. Dr. Jessica, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Good evening, everyone.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. We're so sorry for all the technical difficulties, but we hope that you're good to go now. I hear you're from Boston. Is this true?
Yeah, I am I live out in central Massachusetts, like an hour from Boston area, but yes, I am in New England.
I'm from Concord, Massachusetts, so that's why I was wondering. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
That's great. I love it out there.
Fantastic.
So, in addition to loving Massachusetts, I also love 7-Year Switch. So I'm going to throw it because I know Ashley has a lot of questions for you. So I'm going to, or actually, no, just kidding. Sean wants to take it away.
Sean is the first one.
Thank you so much, guys. Dr. Jessica, I got to say it's been such a privilege watching this show and learning from you because thanks to what I've seen on this show, I was actually able to get engaged and really figure out some relationship things. But one of my questions for you is, what are some of the best ways to navigate conflict in a relationship?
Okay, great question, and congratulations on your engagement. That's awesome.
Thank you so much.
Very exciting. So, it sounds cliche, but one of the best ways to navigate conflict really is just to focus on communication with your partner and making sure that you are clear about what it is that's bothering you and how it's bothering you. I mean, we will say to couples over and over again, you can save yourself days and days of angst and stress by spending 5 minutes trying to put an argument to bed, just by sitting down calmly and talking it through with your partner, not being afraid to have those tough conversations. You want to do it when you're not heated,
right?
Not in the moment. And so if you need to take a beat for yourself, take 30 minutes and say, I'm going to process this, or let's talk about this after work, and not over text, by the way, but face to face.
Oh yeah, that
the
matters.
over texting gets everyone.
And then
It does. And it's so easy to get in that trap.
You're just like, oh wait, I could say one more thing. Let me just add that one little phrase.
You try and throw a smiley face in to like soften it, and sometimes they're missed, and yeah.
But what was you going to say?
Tone is hard over text too.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And one other question is, I feel like I'm seeing a lot of things that maybe their parents could have put into the couples that is causing their problems now. Because I also noticed that between my fiance and I, that we have some issues that, when we were growing up, we saw and we're almost replicating them. So how do you let go of the mistakes learned from your parents when you're in a good relationship or trying to make it good?
Such a wise observation, and part of my role is really helping people understand how their past affects their present. And so just by being aware of that, you can start to make some changes. So, many times we engage in these patterns in our relationships and don't realize that we're actually reenacting patterns from growing up, whether it was how we saw our parents love each other, how we received love as kids, how we saw our parents not react in loving ways. And that serves as a template that we apply to our relationships going forward. So just by being aware of it and starting to pay more attention to those patterns, explore that for yourself.
Right.
Hey, how did I observe love as a child? How did I receive love as a child? What are the unhealthy patterns I observed? And can you see those in your prior relationships? Just by being aware of that, you can start to make some changes, going forward.
Thank
Oh
you
my
so
God,
much.
this is wisdom that I
is very
think we
good.
all needed. Dr. Jessica, I have a question for you. Talking about the couples, of course, on this season of 7-Year Switch, which couple for you, when you first met them, seemed to have the most of an uphill battle, I guess you could say?
I think probably the obvious choice to everyone and to me it was Kenya and Charles, and that would, I think, to this day would be my answer. Although they all had their own struggles going forward. I mean, even Reese and Diane, when we first met with them, rated their marriage like a 9.5. I'm like, guys, nobody in America can rate their marriage 9.5, and you're willing to go do this insane, switch therapy process on a marriage that's 9.5. So there's something more to this story.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Kenya and Charles, I think really struggled, and they talked very openly about how much they had struggled. They were living separately, and they had infidelity and a lot of other forms of betrayal they each had felt in their marriage, and both really, really wanted to do anything they could to make their marriage work. I think they probably had the most uphill battle.
So with Kenya and Charles, a lot of the root of their issues is really the loss of what brought them together, which was their faith, and how a person can still love somebody who is drastically changed. So what is your advice for people who are in a relationship? They so desperately want to make it work because they love the person, but as Angela has so articulately relayed in her, voiceovers, or even to Kenya herself, if you don't like your partner, then there's a problem. So how can you kind of get back to liking your partner if all the similarities that brought you together are no longer there?
I think, for Kenya and Charles, they still have areas in which they had some compatibility and similarities. I think part of it was the faith was such a core issue to Kenya that it was something she could not move past. And everybody's going to change and evolve and mature as we get older, and there are going to be things about us that change, and hopefully everybody's freaking out about change, and change isn't necessarily a bad thing.
True.
But the problem is that when you become so divergent in what's important to you and your core values, that there are some things that you're just not able to get back on track. But, my suggestion would be to focus on the things that you do have in common, making sure that you're spending time together and talking through these issues. And there's some things that are deal breakers. For Kenya, the faith issue was a deal breaker. No matter how she tried to, work to have some acceptance of it, but that wasn't going to happen. I think really just connecting around what your other core values are. Because he wasn't uber religious anymore in the way she wanted him to be. He was an extremely spiritual guy and wanted to serve the Lord, from in his words and through other means. And I think unfortunately, Kenya's sort of rigidity about that also got in her way, and I think she'll talk openly about that too. So I don't want to be throwing her under the bus at all. But that was really, a deal breaker for her, and she was clear about that with him.
It'll be interesting to see. We've made our predictions as to what we assume probably happened, but it will be very interesting to see on the final episode when they basically say if they're going to stay together or separate, and it'll be great to see Kenya kind of describe her experience and see the growth that she's had, because hopefully you hope that everybody really learns about themselves through this experience and is able to self-actualize.
Yeah, only 2 episodes to find out.
Because throughout the season we've seen Charles kind of been taking all of the blame for their relationship not working out. We haven't really seen Kenya really taking any of the responsibility.
Yeah, and it just seems like if she can lose the rules a little bit and make more time for fun, which we commonly see throughout the episodes, when they're out having fun, that's when they're letting the tension go.
The inner child. You gotta let the inner child out.
Yeah.
Dr. Jessica,
And that's such a good lesson. to people is make sure you have fun with your partner. We forget to do that. 'Cause life gets so serious and paying bills and trying to get everything done that you forget that part of life and part of a healthy relationship is having fun.
Right.
And that goes back to
Accessing
liking
that
person.
childlike quality in your spouse, and not being afraid to do that.
Dr. Jessica, I just have one more question for you. I was recently rewatching season 2, and I noticed, first of all, I feel as though we're not getting enough of you and Charles J. Orlando in this season as we did last season. I felt as though we saw a lot more of your personal anecdotes or suggestions, feedback in season 2 that we maybe have not seen in season 3. Is that a conscious decision? That's part one. And then, or is that a conscious decision not on your part, but on maybe producer's part? And then part 2 of the question is, coming off of season 2 where you had Kelsey and, what's his name, Dustin, I believe?
Yeah,
I think so.
Who were clearly a tumultuous switch couple, I guess you could say. And then coming on to this season, are you feeling a little bit more relaxed with your job, more comfortable working with these couples than the previous seasons?
Okay, so great set of questions. So the first part of this, so I have zero say over, production and what content of the show is, what content they actually include, and we have switched to a different network this season, and so I don't know how much that plays into it either. I do know though that a lot of the work that Charles and I do, people might consider more boring. So even though they may not air it all, it may, we're still working closely with the couple, just providing consultation throughout the experience, whether it's in person or on the phone throughout the process. But, what they choose to air is really, I have zero say.
Okay, that's what I figured.
And I don't know the answer to that, but I would imagine perhaps it's just to move to a different network or just a executive producer's decision, or who knows. And then the second part of this was, moving to season 3. I don't think we ever totally relax until we get through it. And honestly, until it airs, because we really get to know these people over time. And the America sees a small amount of time of their lives broadcast, and it's easy to come to some strong opinions or even villainize some of these people. So, for example, Kelsey, I really got to know her during that process, and she took a ton of heat. Now I don't know if you follow her at all on social media, but she and James have had a baby, and they have this beautiful life together now, and but they really
Dustin
they really
and his wife though, Jacqueline, right, had a child as well, right?
Yeah, so we have so many 7-year switch babies now. Jacqueline had a baby, Kelsey and James had a baby. Jacqueline and Dustin had a baby, Kelsey and James had a baby. We have babies from season 1.
Congrats to those families.
What about season 3? Do we have any season 3 buns in the oven?
Season 3, buns in the oven. That would be a spoiler alert, wouldn't it?
Watch out now.
Well, I had to throw it in there.
Not locking into that one.
There was one more question that I thought of as well. And do you feel that the format switch with some of the different activities this season may have helped the couples a little bit more than last season?
I don't know if
there was there was an intimacy exercise that really popped out to me. For example, I think it was like the almost massage that they did in season 2, whereas this season the intimacy exercise was more of like a staring into each other's eyes and just trying to get comfortable with what they needed to say to each other. Like just that's the only example I could think of. But I just wondered if you feel like that is playing at all into how much the couples this season may be doing. How well
I think the exercises we switch in and out, and some of them they may not show. I mean, we use the eye contact, aka awkward staring contest, but eye gazing exercise with all of our couples, because actually eye gazing is something, if you're looking for a way to reconnect with your partner, just by looking into their eyes for, a chunk of time. It doesn't have to be 4 minutes. You can do 2 minutes, start with 30 seconds. It's just a way. There's actually physiological things that happen.
That gives me
It's very
anxiety
intense.
thinking
And-
about that.
Yeah. It's funny because I was on a reality show from the same production company.
Yeah.
We did a lot of eye gazing exercises as well. So I love it.
Yeah, so
It's intense.
yeah, and
It's intense.
so there is some science sort of behind that. It goes back to sort of like harkening back to our earlier conversation about parent-child relationships and things, but early attachment science and the way in which babies first know their loves and are calm and secure is closeness of skin, but then eye contact with a parent can be really calming.
Yeah.
So part of the reason is they're releasing oxytocin and other things are happening. So the same principles can apply to a smaller degree in other types of relationships. So,
I love the science behind it. That's so cool.
Yeah, this show is definitely therapeutic. This is awesome.
I want to say too. I noticed that during I forget what that was actually called in this particular episode where the wives were together and then the husbands were together was another one of the summits perhaps. But I noticed that you spoke with the wives while Charles J. Orlando obviously spoke with the husbands.
No.
Reverse that. Yeah, reverse the other way around. Where you were speaking with.
The husbands.
Yeah, the husbands. Yeah, I'm like boy, girl in my mind. Was that for a particular reason? Do you feel that the men were more open talking about feelings with you versus with Charles?
Yeah, I think, honestly, that was a game time decision Charles and I made based on some of the concerns that had come up with each of the couples and the individuals. And Charles and I have very different styles.
Yeah.
And he'll cut right to it, and and I will get there, but I take a little bit of a longer, winding road to get there. So we actually made that decision based on a couple of the individuals that we thought it might be a better fit. I mean, we enjoy working with all of them. I love working with women too, but
well, many of the women, would you say, are kind of straight to the point, blunt, just kind of like Charles is?
Yes, I would agree with that. And actually, this batch of men that we had this time were terrific to work with because they were so willing to be vulnerable very quickly in the process and were very open to that. And so sometimes we'll struggle with that with the men in particular in these sorts of experiences. But that was not the case this time. It seemed like we had a little bit of a gender reversal there.
I love though how you pointed out that a lot of men's strength actually comes in their ability to be vulnerable.
Yeah,
so often,
that was great.
Masculinity is hide the tears, hide the feelings. So I love that you really pulled that out.
Yeah, they were really great about that this season, being willing to be able to be open to that. Which made it.
Dr. Jessica, I know that it is so late where you are, so I just, on behalf of all of us, thank you so much for tuning in to us, and we hope you enjoy our show. I know I can speak personally, have loved watching you. My favorite part is when you say, or will they stay together forever? And that's my favorite line every single time. It's like
to divorce and part ways for good.
Yeah, every time.
Nice.
Oh, that was amazing. Thank you. Where can we find you on social media, just so we can plug you, and if you're up to anything else?
So let's see. I am on Twitter, and it's at the Dr. Jessica, the Dr. Jessica, and then the Instagram is. Hold on. I should know this.
It's okay.
That's pathetic. Okay. What is it? It's Dr. Jessica Griffin on Instagram.
Okay. So you just add the last name.
Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much
When
again.
I go on there, it says, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Pardon, what?
No, sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you again so much. We hope you had fun answering these questions. We're so grateful to you, and we hope that there's a season 4.
So do we. Well, thank you so much for having me. It was a blast tonight, and have a great rest of the week, everybody. And congrats on the engagement again.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dr. Jessica.
Thank you.
All right. Take care, guys.
Bye.
That was cool. That was really
Yeah.
great advice.
Wow.
It's so funny when you hear somebody on the phone and they sound exactly like, I mean, we haven't met her in person, obviously, but she sounds just like she does on the show.
Yeah, it's super cool.
She was really, really wonderful, and I think she provided honest insight.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys are picking up on it, but it sounds like, given the verbiage she was using, Kenya and Charles, Splitsville.
Yeah.
Did you not get that?
No, I think though we would think that no matter what, I feel like no matter what she would have said, we would think that they've split.
All right. Well, whatever. You know
And
what?
we'll tell.
Yeah.
You know what?
Soon.
It's fine. Like, whatever. I really just want to. Now that
the
we've
best for everyone.
let's just push that
Yes.
off to the side, because there are so many really important things to talk about in this
Yeah.
episode. We haven't really given you anything. Let's talk about the activities between the spouses, or the switch spouses. So it was basically dare if you do, dare if you don't type situations. We had a switch, or sorry, not a switch room. We had an escape room. We had
Cooking while handcuffed.
which
That was
that worried me on
Well,
a first
dangerous.
safety
A
level.
little bit of danger is always good though.
Ooh.
Okay, we see what Ashley's into.
Hey, she's wearing the red. Watch out.
So then we had the trust falls, and then we also had the like blindfold cornhole game. I wasn't entirely sure where that was going, but what did you? Oh, the map in
That was fun to watch.
Oh my goodness,
That was
See, those
hilarious.
two though,
they're so
cute. They're really
cute together.
They're cute.
I know. I really love Tony and Kenya as well, but Charles and Angela just like they vibe off of each other,
Right.
and it's so infectious when you watch it. It's kind of weird to be rooting for them.
the way that they are together is, to me, it seems like a great relationship.
Yeah.
But we don't know if maybe they would actually perform well together in terms of like the real life like.
Romantic relationship.
No, I think they'd be good there.
Oh, okay.
I think they're pretty
Oh.
straight on fire. I mean more so like when it comes time to like maybe somebody has to do the bill, somebody has to do that kind of boring stuff.
Right.
As having fun, they're great. But sometimes if you kind of are somebody who lives a little more in that gray area, sometimes you need somebody who is that gentle leader.
Well, even
Right.
Dr.
Which
Jessica
I love that they
said
said Tony was.
they're both free spirits, so the responsibilities may fall by the wayside. I don't know.
With a free spirit, they can be their free spirited self. They need to be with somebody who will allow them, like to be their free spirited self within certain confines. You know, and so that
sorry,
maybe
Kenya.
that other person kind of like provides those confines. Yeah.
We saw with Kenya and Tony, which I thought was brilliant, the boxing. And I think Kenya working out her aggression
That's very
was
necessary.
really, really helpful for
Yes.
her. What did you guys think about that?
I agree
Started-
100%.
She looked adorable for starters. She's watching. Super cute. And that whole
Love
scene.
the
So I was like,
athleisure
this looks so
outfit.
cute. She looks adorable. Yeah, so that wasn't necessarily their vulnerability. I think that was just their particular exercise. I think that was just kind of something they were just doing.
Oh,
And I
this
think-
is true. This is true.
But I think that is good. Like for people that are like naturally more aggressive, more leaders, like to have some sort of physical way to get that energy out is very useful.
Gotta have an
very
outlet.
useful.
Going back to what I initially said about danger, I just don't think handcuffs should be involved in a kitchen. But they executed their task. They, I guess, had a good dinner.
Yeah.
And it was nice to see Kenya looking so happy.
Yeah.
And that made me happy. Her smile again was infectious. Similar to the bond between Angela and Charles, but I'm rooting for them, but I don't see a future with her and Charles. We say it every week.
Right.
I think they're better off separate.
That's the thing. I think that Kenya and Charles, each of them, they're not getting what they need. I think they both are wonderful people on their own, but together they're not getting or receiving what it is. They're not giving or giving what it is that they need or their partner needs.
Yeah, and the faith was it's clearly a must-have for Kenya. So there's no moving around that.
But I really enjoyed seeing Kenya kind of warm up to Tony, and how even Tony
Yeah.
said that she finally put her hand on his arm and things like that. And also, I love though when she said something along the lines of Tony being a confident leader, but who does so gently.
Yeah.
So you can tell that she's not used to having a leader.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but even
Yeah,
if you're
yeah.
sometimes even if somebody is like the alpha, sometimes you still want someone to take the reins, you know?
It was kind of interesting
Mm-hmm.
too when Diane said that like she seems to get too into work mode and being the leader so much
Mm-hmm.
that she gets stuck in that zone where she's not a soft leader. She's just more too.
I think it probably goes back to me. If you go back to childhood, or go back to anything, you kind of fall into this story that you tell yourself that you have to be this and you have to do these things in order for everything else to fall in line.
Yeah.
And maybe, since obviously Reese is a little more of the, I forget what his title was, the peacekeeper, or, something obviously more of one who is a little more led versus leading. Mm-hmm. I'm sure she just kind of falls into that role. Instead of them talking about it, like, hey, how do you feel about this or that? It's just habit. Just is the way it is.
My only concern with that is, and I'm the same way, I'm definitely type A, is when you kind of allow yourself to be more vulnerable and you don't control everything, if it doesn't get done, then you're left with, like, say a task needs to be completed, then the task still isn't completed. And then
Right.
how do you kind of recover from that? Because on one end, you're like, told you so. And then on the other end, you're like, well, shoot, we're kind of screwed in this whatever situation we're in.
I think being aware of yourself and your own tendencies, like Dr. Jessica was saying, is what really helps with it so much, because like sometimes it can go wrong, but also eventually it can get solved, and it may not be the way that you wanted it to be solved. But if you're just able to relax and even have a bit of a sense of humor with the way things are going, sometimes it'll still work out.
Because what they say, teamwork makes a dream work. So as long as each person, each part of the relationship is pulling their fair weight, I think everything will get done.
It looks like we got to start wrapping up soon, because
really?
we're running out of some time here.
Well, I want to talk about what really was the most exciting part. When the wives met the wives and the husbands met the husbands.
Yeah.
Dr. Jessica was with the husbands, and Charles J. Orlando was with the wives. And first of all, why was alcohol consumed at these events? I just feel like
Take
Ashley
that
was
edge
saying
off.
that.
Yeah, take that edge off.
but I just feel like the emotions were running too high anyways, so that wasn't helping. But I don't know. I thought there are some interesting moments. My favorite moment was when Rosalind started crying, hearing Diane recount how vulnerable Bobby was. And I don't think it was a crying out of sadness. It was crying because she was so proud of her husband. I think she definitely wished that she was there to experience it with him. But I don't know. Did you guys take that as a I'm annoyed with Diane, or I'm proud of my husband?
She was disappointed that she hadn't experienced that for herself with Bobby. That was definitely.
Yeah, because it seems like when she said that she's been like on pins and needles, just waiting to take anything that Bobby will share with her. So I can empathize with that amount of pain, being like, just open up to me, and have somebody not do it. Like, you always hit a brick wall with them. To hear that they do it with somebody else, while part of you is like, well, it's good to know that you can do that, but then you're also like,
But hearing
why haven't we been doing that then?
But hearing what they both had to say at their meetings, both Rosalind and Bobby, it made me feel very confident about how their relationship's going to go, because they revealed so much that they care so much about the other. That I feel good, very good about.
What
them.
did you guys think about Charles at the end? We get a little glimpse, and we'll get into predictions for next week. A little glimpse of Charles or all the husbands rating their switched marriages, and Charles giving the big 10. And Tony's like, what? What did you guys, were you shocked, or was that something you expected?
Oh, expected. I mean, it's very, very clear that Charles has feelings for Angela.
Yeah. I don't think I was surprised that Charles did that.
What do you think the other men will rate their switch marriages?
I don't think we'll see any other 10s.
I like that they all had to write it down at the same time.
Yeah.
So you can't go back and be like,
I could see Tony giving a low score, but then I think that his last few days with Kenya have been really uplifting. I in the spirit of, okay, ready? In the count of 3, say what you think Tony will give Kenya. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, 6. Okay, that was it.
Sorry,
Sean
I needed more
didn't-
time. I couldn't.
The thing is, though, also you have to remember that when you're in this environment, they know whatever they're gonna say is gonna be on TV as well.
But I think
True.
we're pretty much out of time for predictions as well. I think we're gonna have to call it a day here, guys.
Are you like a human watch?
Sean, yeah, seriously.
You guys want to be?
I'm just getting notes from our producers that we got.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, we're gonna. That's okay. Anyways, some people like to plug their social media, Sean.
Yeah.
Where can we find you?
You can find me at Sean Paul Payton or at Donald Glover's double or at the Skype Psychic. I have so many now.
My goodness sakes. You can find me on Twitter at @HiAshleyLauren and at kindtokind.com.
And you can find me, Caroline Thayer, at Caroline J. Thayer. We're sorry that this episode was a little bit short. We had technical difficulties, personal issues, but we had Dr. Jessica, and we will have so much more for you next week, so make sure you're tuned back in. Thank you guys so much. Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.